Three emergency room visits, same week, every single time the doctors examine him and run tests, send him home back. Then one third visit, something happens that stops the entire hospital cold. He tried to swallow his own saliva and his body simply refuses. He can't do it. Something inside him has taken the ability away. By the time doctors figured out what was actually wrong with this man, it was already too late to save him. But the investigation that followed didn't stop there. It ended up protecting over 700 people who had no idea that they were ever in danger. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how one small forgettable moment turned into one of the strangest medical detective stories of the year. When he was finally transferred to a larger hospital in Ohio, the medical team did exactly what good detectives do. They went straight for one of the most direct sources of information in the human body, the cerebrospinal fluid, collected through a spinal tap, and they got a hit almost immediately. Tests came back positive for a parasite called toxoplasma, something you can pick up from surprisingly any ordinary source, like cat's litter box. It was a clean explanation for his neurological symptoms. Then a scan turned up something else, a bulging disc pressing on nerves in his lower spine. That explained the leg weakness. Two mysteries, two titties satisfying answers, case closed, or at least that's what it looked like, except he kept getting worse. Within days, his condition fell apart completely. He began having seizures. Scans showed his brain was swelling inside his own skull, pressing against bone without nowhere to go. And that's when the medical team realized something critical. The parasite was never the actual answer, it was a distraction, a coincidence dressed up as a diagnosis. So they escalated hard. Samples went out to three separate public health agencies simultaneously: the Kentucky Department of Public Health, the Ohio Department of Health, and the CDC itself. Each lab worked independently without knowing what the other suspected, which matters because it removes the possibility of one lab's guess influencing others' result. All three came back with the exact same word. Here's what makes this genuinely rare. Human rabies cases in the United States are almost unheard of. Most years, the entire country sees only one or two total. So the real question isn't just what it is, it's how did this happen here? When scientists sequenced the virus's genetic code, the answer became clear immediately. It didn't match any strain found in American wildlife. No raccoons, no bats, no foxes. It matched a strain that circulates almost exclusively among street dogs in Haiti. 7 months before any of this happened, this man had immigrated to Kentucky to reunite with his family. And sometime before he left Haiti, he had a small, easily forgettable encounter with a dog. A scratch, maybe, a lick against skin that was already broken. Nothing dramatic, nothing that felt like it deserved a hospital visit. But rabies doesn't need a dramatic wound, it just needs an opening. Any opening at all. For 7 months, the virus stayed almost completely dormant. Then silently, it began its journey, climbing up his nerve system at a pace of just millimeters per day, heading steadily toward his brain. Most rabies cases show symptoms within 3 months of exposure. A 7 month delay is exceptionally unusual. And it's a huge part of why nobody connected this to a dog bite from another country half a year earlier. Now, here's the part almost nobody talks about when this story gets covered. Because rabies took so long to even be considered, nobody treating him was using rabies level precautions. Standard gloves, standard masks, not the kind of protective equipment you'd use if you knew going in that you were handling a fatal, transmissible virus. That's how many people had to be tracked down and risk assessed after the diagnosis finally came back. Nurses, doctors, family members, anyone who had contact with him during that window, of those, 60 people had been exposed closely enough that they needed to rabies vaccine immediately. No delay. And here's the number that really puts in its perspective. 88% of those 60 were healthcare workers, people who were simply doing their job with zero idea what they were actually walking into. Now, here's something important, and it's the part a lot of medical content online gets wrong. Even if doctors had caught this on the very first day, it almost certainly would not have saved his life. Once rabies symptoms begin, the survival rate is close to zero. Full stop. That's the truth no matter how fast anyone had moved. no matter how good the hospital was. So if speed wasn't going to save him, why does early diagnosis matter at all? Because of everyone else around him, fast diagnosis doesn't just help the patient in front of you. It's the only thing that gives their contacts a real window to get vaccinated before symptoms could ever start in them too. Once rabies is confirmed, post-exposure shots work extremely well, but only if they're given before symptoms appear. That is the entire point of catching something like this early. Not to save the one person it's already too late for, but to protect the hundreds of people centered around him. This case ended up becoming a real case study taught the hospitals across the country as a reminder that when the pieces of a diagnosis don't quite fit together cleanly, this mismatch is exactly the moment to call in outside help. At the moment to settle for the easiest available answer. If a case this strange grabbed you the way it grabbed me, there's another one just as unsettling waiting for you, right here. Just click on the next video and I'll see you in the next one.